Welcome to another edition of Riding Home. Dean, Legge, Matt DeBary. Matt, we're going to talk a couple of different things here. We're going to start first with the NFL draft, which is going to be Thursday night. Deandre Baker is likely the most likely guy to get taken out of Georgia in the first round. There's also a couple of other guys I think we should monitor, and we'll get to them in a little bit, which are Ridley and Deandre Walker. But Deandre Baker is the guy to keep an eye on. I hope I said Deandre Baker at the beginning. Did I say Deandre Walker?
I think you said Baker in the beginning, so I think we're good.
The spelling is slightly different, but the pronunciation is exactly the same.
Right.
That Baker came into the year or into the draft process as roughly a top 10, top 15 guy. We'll see what happens there. The NFL Network has him somewhere around 23. They have Deandre Walker in the late, barely being in the first round, and then Ridley in the same situation. Let's talk about Deandre Baker first. A couple of things coming out this week, according to an ESPN draft analyst, Todd McShay, saying that Deandre was sort of talked badly about or not as highly talked about from the perspective of the Georgia coaching staff after him not playing and allegedly causing distractions. Of course, this is according to McShay. What do you make of this sort of stuff? And, Deandre has not had a touchdown scored on him in 2 years. I have never heard anything bad about Deandre. So if this is something that's popped up, maybe it's something that's popped up lately. I just help me out here.
I think it's more of just NFL late draft noise. There's always these type of rumors at the very end, but he came back to play his senior season. Like you said, he could have gone last year. So he's a good teammate. I think everyone on the team will vouch for him. And I think the film overall, like you've said, and some draft analysts out there have said, the film speaks for itself. He doesn't give up touchdowns. He's got great instincts. Everyone kind of, I don't want to say everyone, but people do lack his size here and there. He's not the biggest guy, but he's big enough to play cornerback in the NFL, I think. Yeah. But I still think he will go in the late first round. We saw him at Pro Day, and he was fine. Didn't, amaze you. Didn't jump out of the building or anything like that. But it wasn't bad, and he had the look of a first round pick, and I do think that's where he'll end up going. You hate to hear this type of noise, especially in the 2 or 3 days before the actual NFL draft. But there's always rumors out there, and who knows how they come about.
But this was coming allegedly from McShay saying it was coming from Georgia's coaching staff. I mean, I have to say I don't use this word often. I was kind of shocked by it, frankly.
Definitely, I think a lot of people were shocked about it, but McShay's in the know. I mean, sure. He's not just throwing this out there. So someone said something, and we talked about it after the Sugar Bowl. Georgia didn't show up to that game, and it kind of the more this goes on, the more it sounds like they did maybe have a little too much fun in New Orleans or really take the game super serious. And who knows what happened behind the scenes there, but it's unfortunate that this is coming out like this. I don't think it'll have much of an impact on his draft and where he's going to be taken. I still think he'll be a late first-round guy, but we'll see. It's definitely interesting and something that was definitely eye-opening to myself and a lot of other people, like you said.
Okay, so I think there's a consensus that Ridley, and Deandre Walker are the second and third guys. The question is, how high do they go? And just for the audience, there is a very serious difference between a first-round and a second-round draft pick in the NFL, and it's not as obvious as the NBA, where a first-round person is guaranteed to make the team. Those are guaranteed contracts. In the NFL, you either get a 4-year contract as a second through free agent signing, second round through free agent, or as a first-round guy, there's a team option to keep you around for the 5th year. Essentially, you are a franchise player. So you get your first 5 years with the team option as for the 5th year, and then they can franchise you. So and in theory, they could, there's a lot of things they can do, but that means they're going to have you for 6 years under some sort of contract. So whereas a second round guy, 4 years after it's done, and there's no sort of guarantees The only thing you get is your guaranteed money from everybody in the draft. All the NFL players only ever get guaranteed money, so it's a little bit inequitable on that front. But with Riley Ridley and Walker, DeAndre obviously dealing with an injury in the SEC championship game. That's another reason why he did not play in the Sugar Bowl. Yeah, a lot of the defensive players did not play in the Sugar Bowl. What do you make of Riley? I mean, obviously his brother Calvin has done pretty well for the Falcons. I don't know if that's an apples-to-apples comparison. And then what do you make of DeAndre Walker, who is a very good rusher on the edge, which is something you really do need in the NFL. Quarterbacks make the NFL, which means you got to pressure the quarterbacks and disrupt them.
Well, on Riley Ridley's end, I don't think the one-year look test really helped him out all that much. I don't know how much that goes into it, if it's relative to positions or what, but I don't think that helped his stock much either. But he's got the film. I mean, he's made some really, really nice NFL catches for Georgia over the years, some big-time catches for Georgia. So he definitely had a nice college career. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy. He'll drop a pass occasionally, but he's a strong kid. He can block. He's athletic. I don't think he'll be a first-round pick. I think that a lot of these receivers are going to go in the second round. I think there's a lot of good receivers in this draft. I think people are knocking that position group specifically a little bit, but I think there's a lot of really good receivers. I don't think Ridley is in that top 2 or 3, but a team is going to take a chance on him. It does look like he might be a second-round guy. If I'm a GM, I'm looking at him mid-second to late second, and that's just me. But he has made the plays, and he's had a really nice Georgia career if you go back and look at it closely. So, and again, with Walker, definitely had the injuries there. He only was in a starting role, this past year, the past few years. He was behind Davin Bellamy and Lorenzo Carter, so didn't get a ton of opportunities. As a junior, he did make a lot of plays, had a lot of sacks this year, created a little bit of havoc. He wasn't the Jarvis Jones, Justin Houston type sack machine off the edge, but, and again, he's a little on the shorter end. He's not your ideal Josh Allen type of outside linebacker that you're looking for in the NFL, but he can set the edge. He's great against the run, and he does know how to attack the passer when given the opportunity. But we'll see where he goes. I don't know how much the injury really hurt him. I'm sure it had to a little bit, going through the combine and pro day stuff, but he's a decent player. He'll get an opportunity. I don't think it's going to be in the first 2 or 3 rounds, though, but that's just me.
Yeah, just a curious. The NFL draft is always a very interesting thing. Let's go through a few other guys too that were, Georgia guys. We're really not going in any order here. Mecole Hardman was a guy that folks inside the program has said to me, and folks around the program, they are wondering why he left early. We'll see where he fits in. He's a heck of a playmaker. I know that. Elijah Holyfield, Elijah and Isaac Nada both had some struggles coming in at their competition days, the pro days, and the NFL Combine with some speed numbers. Terry Godwin, sort of a solid NFL receiver, maybe a 5th, 6th, 7th round guy. I don't think Jason Stanley will get picked, but he certainly looks the part. And then Lamont Gaillard is a guy I think I don't want to skip here as a multi-year starter on a very good offensive line group. I'm just going to turn it over to you. Who do you think of that group will get picked the highest? Would it be Lamont or Isaac? I mean, what do you think?
I think of that group, the first guy that's going to be off the board is Mecole, but I love Lamont Gaillard. If he's there late in the round or in the draft for my Falcons, I think he'd be an excellent addition. Like you said, multi-year starter in the SEC, led one of the best rushing attacks in the SEC the past 2 years. He's dominated at times. I'm wondering why he isn't being talked about as one of the top interior linemen. Obviously, I'm not a draft expert. I'm not an X's and O's guy. I'm not an offensive line coach, but he made a lot of plays, started at the University of Georgia at center for 3 total years, made the transition from the defensive line. He's really grown a lot and gotten better and better, and I think he's going to be a really good player at the next level.
Yeah, Mecole is a guy that is a curious playmaker. I mean, you start thinking about Jackson, who was with the Philadelphia Eagles forever, I just don't know how necessarily he fits in a prototypical way. I mean, you're talking about, these 32 teams only have 53-man rosters, and on the 53-man roster, only so many guys can play in each game. They're not all 53 active. So you really do have to matter. Now, with Mikol, you're talking about a guy who has just straight up elite speed, period. And he's played receiver his whole college existence. I remember very clearly watching him in high school. He is still developing as a receiver. I mean, he played a little bit of DB, if memory serves correct, while Kirby was there too. Did he not?
That first year, yeah, it was kind of
so
a wasted year, basically.
You're kind of 2 years into this thing now. I do wonder if he's a guy that is a late round steal. I would not pick him before the third round, not because I don't think he's a good player, but because the draft is about value and making sense in your program and your, really franchise, not program. So those guys are all, listen, these are guys that it's going to hurt that Georgia lost them. They are exceptionally good players in the college realm. I think Deandre Baker is the clear, possible, Pro Bowl candidate of the group over time, and but losing someone like Elijah Holyfield, who probably will get drafted, but I don't think there's a certainty of that. Losing him at Georgia will hurt. Losing all these guys at Georgia will hurt, but that's why you recruit, Matt. And I'm going to shift the focus to G-Day and recruiting and moving forward here. Go ahead.
Real quick, I do want to say one more thing about Mikol. Everyone's looking for that next Tyreek Hill. Everyone's looking for that Deshaun Jackson type. So I understand why he left. He definitely could have helped the team a lot this year if he would have stayed one more year in college. But people love the speed, and that's the one thing that he definitely has. And every team is trying to find that deep threat vertical route, and he'll get an opportunity. He didn't take a lot of returns back for scores at Georgia, but I do think, maybe in the return game, a lot of people think he can help out there. But that's going to be a big loss. But like you said, Georgia's going out there, and they're, restocking the deck with more 5 stars. And there was a ton of them on campus at G-Day. Mikhail Sherman, Keely Ringo, Eric Gilbert, Kendall Milton. So many guys. I know we got a whole bunch of pictures out on Dog Post, but like you said, really, really big recruiting weekend this past weekend at G-Day.
It was, and in the NFL, it seems more and more like you draft a guy in the first round as a quarterback, and you need him to win you a Super Bowl. Not on the second contract, on the first contract. Russell Wilson, the kid at Kansas City. This is the new sort of pattern in the league.
And Jared Goff just played for one.
Jared Goff. This is his first contract. Yeah. When you think about college football, I think the future is you've got to win with young players, like freshman and sophomore, and some teams struggle with that. You see teams like, or they don't even do that, and you see down years. What comes to mind to me is, I think this is a good program too. Is Michigan State? That's a very good coach, and a program that's really done well in the Big Ten East for a long time. But I think that if you don't have the ability to win with young players, you're not going to compete for national championships, conference championships. And the one thing I do think Kirby does a good job of is getting young, talented kids in there and play them right away. I mean, Jake Fromm is a good example, but he's not the only one. I mean, Nakobe Dean looks like he could be. Nakobe Dean and Tyreek Stevenson look like they could very well be very good players, but it was Eric Stokes who had such a big day on Saturday, man. What'd you make of him?
Yeah, he's definitely turning out to be one of the best defenders on the team. I know Dylan wrote a really, really good piece on him after the spring game. If you're listening to this and haven't read that, definitely go check that out. But he knows how to cover. He's got quickness. He's got speed. I mean, even when he was out there last year against Missouri, he was on the back of those dudes' hips. And they have some really good receivers. Eric Stokes was right there. And, it's not – the 5 stars are nice and shiny, and you want those guys to do well, but this coaching staff knows what they're doing, and they went out and pushed for this track star, and they're turning him into a legit cornerback, not just a freak track guy who's just running out there trying to stay with someone. I mean, he knows how to cover, and I mean, when he ripped that ball away from Jeremiah Holloman, that was impressive. That really was. That was just a spring game, but I mean, this is the first play of the game. These guys are still going 100% at that point, and that was impressive. So Georgia, like we said, they need someone to step up at cornerback, and he's not the biggest guy, but Eric Stokes is really taking advantage of one of those starting spots, it looks like.
Well, and we don't know what the two deep will be necessarily, but it does sure seem to me like Nolan will be on it, N'Kobe will be on it, Tyreek will be on it, Eric Stokes will be on it. Just the two deep now. I don't
DJ Daniel, made a lot of plays. I think they really do like him as well.
These are all first year players. I mean, I think that's the thing about it is in the SEC. So Clemson can do this sort of stuff. A lot of it up there is they might play 2 challenging games a year, but in this league, well, you better be good real quick in the SEC. You better be able to turn kids around real quick, or you're not going to succeed. I mean,
I think that's what he's telling these kids, and when he's in the recruitment process, that's what he told Miko and those guys when he first got the job, and he was trying to close with that 2016 class. He said, "Hey, I need you guys. You're going to play early, and the goal is 3 and out. We want to run our program like Alabama ran theirs. It's a 3 and out factory, an NFL factory." And even though it probably would have been best for them individually if Miko Hardman and Isaac Nada stayed for 4th year, they were promised this was a 3 and out type of program that they're building, and they are building that, and so you can't exactly blame them. They came to Georgia because the plan was to go 3 and out. That, I think, most of these 5 stars and most of these recruits nowadays, that's how they're thinking. So for a kid to stay all 4 years means he's either trying to get another year of tape to go to the NFL, or he just loves the program and staying for leadership roles and all that. But I mean, if you want to go 3 and out and have that type of program, you're going to have to play these kids early. Yeah. They want to play as freshmen. They want to get that tape out there. It's 3 and out. That's why they're coming to schools like Georgia and all that. So a lot of these kids are expecting to play early, and if not their freshman year, really try to step up and earn one of their starting jobs as a sophomore or a junior.
There's nothing wrong with playing 3 years and leaving. And I think when we get back to the discussion of Isaac and Miko, the question is really, is it best for them individually to leave? Do they better their status for the NFL draft by coming back? And if the answer is no, then they should leave. And I don't think anybody hates them for it.
I don't know if Isaac Nada could have gotten any better. I think Miko definitely could have stayed another year at working and developing at receiver. I definitely think he could have gotten better. Isaac is what he is. I don't think he
I think he's been what he's been. Well, but Gwinnett County kids, specifically kids from Buford, I mean, these are guys that are highly developed before they get into school in college. Yeah. And then, of course, he went to IMG as well. I mean, this isn't some raw guy, Walter Grant, Leonard Floyd. This is a guy who's been through, he is what he is, I think. And frankly, it can be a game-changing tight end. It's just that, he's moving on to the NFL, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You're just going to have to see guys at Georgia step up at the tight end position, and we'll see if that happens or not this fall.
Yeah, there's going to have a lot of young guys are going to be able to make that opportunity. Obviously, Charlie Warner is going to be the leader of that group, and with a big year for Charlie, he's a guy who we be talking about, for next year's NFL draft. So
people love him, man.
That's a tough football player right there. You don't got to worry about him off the field or anything like that. He comes to play, and he's been a reliable pass catcher.
And that's just the question: is when you saw Charlie and just the tight ends in general, they got worked a lot at G-Day. And
they always do.
Well, no, they do, but it does make me wonder: are they just going to have these guys sit down? in the zone and have Jake Fromm have that as an option the entire time.
Yeah,
I don't
they
know.
have to spread it out. If they're going to land both Eric Gilbert and Darnell Washington, which right now that's a definite possibility, they are going to have to maybe open it up a little more and throw the tight ends a good bit this fall. But if the guys aren't there and they're not making the plays, then you can't. You have to work around, with what you've got. And if Eric Gilbert and Darnell Washington were on campus, they probably would throw the tight ends more. But I know that's something that they want to see a little bit more of. And John Fitzpatrick is a big target. Maybe he'll get more opportunities this year. Charlie Warner absolutely will get some opportunities this year. He's a senior and a leader on this offense, but he can also make plays. So definitely a reliable option for Jake Fromm in those third down type of situations. So.
All right, another edition of Riding Home here. Dean Legge and Matt DeBary. Matt, we're going to check back in here soon, talk about a lot of different topics. Thanks for everyone listening on Instagram, YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, and on Dog Post. Please go check out the site, dawgpost.com. Matt, thanks again, and we'll see you next time.